I'm now going to talk about village grocery shops that we had. We had two in the High Street in Cookham. One was the International Stores and the other was Budgens. And Budgens is the one that I'm going to talk more about. In this case, I'm going to talk about the pickup of orders and delivery of orders by one Jim Bond. Jim was in his 20s when he was working for Budgens in the 30s. So I would say he was born in about 1910 or thereabouts. And he was quite a genial sort of person. And every Monday morning he would come to Woodbrook Cottage and pick up an grocery order from my mother. And he would go next door to my aunt and pick up an order from them, and then on Wednesday he would return with all the goods, and my mother would pay him whatever the bill was, and he took the money and put it in a sort of a big leather pouch which he had slung around his neck. And he lived with his widowed mother, just on the beginning of High Road up from the station near the Dell. And he suffered from epilepsy, and that prevented him during the war from being called up. And his series of fits were very, very slight as far as, because I never recall having heard of him having a fit while he was working. And then, of course, he would run around the village doing this, picking up orders and on particular days and delivering the orders in the bike that you see in the picture here. And as a matter of fact, I rode one like that when in 1941 my father took me on as his Saturday boy, and I was delivering meat to varying customers around the town of Maidenhead, for which I got the great fee, or paid the wage, of 5 shillings. Well, 5 shillings was worth quite a bit. Because then in the after work I would go either to the Plaza or the Rialto cinemas in Maidenhead, depending on what I wanted to see. And usually the money to go to the cinema was from tips that I had picked up. Somebody would give me 2pence here, or 3pence, or even a 6pence sometimes. And that would go to cover the cost of my Saturday afternoon and early evening treat. So that's the story of Jim Bond. As I say, he spoke with a little bit of a lisp, and I think he did have sort of a slip upper part of his roof of his mouth, and he sort of talked down through his nose, but with a lisp. It's one of those things, but as I say, he was a very nice chap, and I don't suppose there's many people around in the village today that would remember Jim Bond. So, anyway, that's my first story. Bye for now.